Hi everyone, it's Melissa from Tassie Stitches. Today is the 1st of February 2026. I can't believe where January's gone, and this is a channel where we talk about everything cross-stitch. If you're new here, I hope you find something that you would like to come back and see again, and if you're a returning viewer, thanks so much for coming back. So today we're going to cover everything that I stitched in the last week. Also, being the 1st of February, we're going to go through my February plans. And then at the very end, we'll draw the card for the deck of whips for next week. So we'll start off with what I actually stitched last week. So as usual, stitched around 3,500. Usually I'm a couple of stitches over. And we'll start with what I did for temperature stitching last week. So to start off with, I worked on Letters from Hogwarts, which is the Harry Potter sale from Cunning Cross Stitch. This is now retired. I do believe he has another Stitch Your Own Adventure type sale up on his website. They're usually free, but I haven't done a lot of research because I'm not really into stitching Middle-earth type stuff. But anyway, this is Letters from Hogwarts. This is stitched on a 32 count even weave that was dyed for me by Crafty Leanie, especially for this project. This got 100 stitches in the last week, so not much, and really all I did was kind of fill in some green stitches in the cabin. This is one of those pieces where I've jumped around quite a lot, so I'm really now just at the point where I'm going through and trying to fill in all the gaps. Oh, and if I don't say everything is stitched in called for DMC, that one stitched 2 over 2. Next up for temperature stitching was Summer Montage. This got 500 stitches in the last week because it was called for 5 days. This is artwork by Summer Montage, artwork by Janet Stever and charted by Pain Free Crafts. These are also retired, unfortunately. I believe Pain Free Crafts retired all of Janet's work last year or the year before. This is where I'm up to. This got 500 stitches in the last week, so most of that was up in here. And as you can see, I'm almost done in that rows now, not too much more to go. So that got 500 stitches, and that is 25 count easy guide or easy grid, I can never remember which one's which, and 1 over 1. The last temperature stitching piece that I worked on was a new one for this week. It replaced a piece that we had originally in this spot. This is Sampler Patchwork Squares by Nara X Stitch on Etsy. So this just got 100 stitches. And basically I just worked, and this little section down here and did this great big long line as well. This is 28 count, 1 over 1. So that got the other 100 stitches for temperature stitching. So that was my temperature stitching for last week. Then we'll look at what I did for Deck of Whips. So for Deck of Whips, it was Mum and Baby. This is artwork by Anya Kai and charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. Deck of Whips for me is normally 300, but I actually ended up putting 400 stitches into this piece because I had needed to use it for 200 stitch prompts. So the 400 stitches were down here and then starting back up the top of this column here. I really love the colours in this piece. This is stitched 2 over 1 on 18 count Aida. I won't be stitching any more full coverage on 18 count Aida. It's not my favourite. I don't like stitching 18 count in general, but that was my first piece back as I mentioned last week, and so I was not 100% sure yet what my comfort zone was, but we'll finish that one anyway. And so that got 400 instead of what it should have got 3. Now the rest are all pieces. Obviously I was just finishing up all my January goals this week, so I managed to hit them all. So the first one up of those is Little Cake Shop. This is also a Heaven and Earth design. Artwork is by Amy Stewart. I believe there are a few other floss tubers actually stitching this one, so you've probably already seen it around quite a bit. I'm still working up in the ceiling section. I'm about halfway across. So this is where I'm at. This got 900 stitches in the last week, and it was basically filling in this column here. I think there was a little bit of work done right up the very top, but not much. So a long way to go on this one, but this did get 906 stitches to meet the 1,000 stitch goal that I had on this one for the month of January. So I'm pretty happy with that. And that's on 25 count even weave. Next up is 13th Colony Bay. So this is a piece by the Bay Needle Arts. It's actually 3 patterns all joined together. I've completed the middle pattern, which is the one between the 2 very similar trees in the middle with the sun. I'm now working on the left-hand side pattern. And this is where I got to. This only needed 200 stitches to meet its goal, and that's exactly what it got. So essentially I just filled in some more of the sea down here and also did a little bit of fill-in on the yellow cottage. So that's 13th Colony Bay. One down here for now. Next up is Witching Hour. Another full coverage and another Hade. This is artwork by Lisa Parker. And this one got 405 stitches to meet its 500 stitch goal. And we'll need something behind that. We'll just use this one. So it's got 400 stitches, mostly just over here, filling in down the column. I am a Parker and I do like to stitch by columns, whether that's good or bad, who knows, but that's just the way I like to stitch. I do trial different ways on some pieces, but this is just my comfort zone, I guess, for full coverage. And this is stitched 1/1 on a 25 count charcoal. It's just as wide art fabric. Oh, and I didn't mention Colony Bay is stitched on a permanent linen in the colourway French Rain. Next up was what I call Japanese crane, but its official name is Crane Panel number 2. Its goal for January was 1,000 stitches, so I finished it up with the last 200, and this is where we are now. So I generally stitch this using Stitching Mummy's typewriter method, where I pick a colour actually going across the row, not in a 10 by 10 block, unless I'm trying to meet colour challenges. So I think the 200 stitches was a lot of this green colour and then filling in the last of the red and these little square things there. So that got 200 stitches to finish off its 1,000 stitch goal for the month. And then the last one I had a goal on for the month was Sugar Glider by Cottage Garden Samplings. This was, I believe, the first or the second one in the Year of the Wood series, second series. I'm stitching this on a piece of 40 count in the colourway Forest Floor that I dyed myself. And this just needed 200 stitches to meet its 500 stitch goal for the month. So this is where we are. So I just continued going down along the tree, down the bottom, and then did this leaf thing here, or started the leaf. I think he's so cute. So that's Sugar Glider by Cottage Garden Samplings. I really like the way that one's turning out. And then I had a day where I had a whole day with nothing planned. So I just pulled out Spring Garden Band Sampler and put 500 stitches into that. So this is the sale from Stitching Cabin this year. So if you are interested in this one, you can jump on board. I am stitching this on a piece of 40 count in the colourway Elizabeth that I dyed myself. And 500 stitches did quite a lot. We almost finished that band. So we've finished off the rest of these flowers, filled in up here, and did that green dividing section. So that's actually the bottom of the January section. And then I got one stitch up here in the flower stems. So because now it's February, I'm going to jump down to the February section if I stitch on this at all in February. And we'll just leave the January as catch-up stitches for later down the track. So that's Spring Garden Band Sampler. So that was all my stitching from the last week. So now we'll look at the temperatures that are coming up for next week, starting from today. So the temperatures were 16, 21, 24, 27, 21, 22 and 22. So 6, we didn't actually end up assigning a width to 6 in January. It didn't come up at all. So 6 is going to be Band of Braves. We did see this in January. It did come out in January. It had quite a large goal on it in January, but it's now going to be our temperature piece for the number 6 for at least 1,000 stitches. And this is the starting point for Band of Braves. I do love this piece. It's so much more colourful than the cover photo shows it to be, and I really like the way that it's coming out. So this is being stitched on a piece of 32 count in even weave in the colourway galvanised bucket that I dye myself. And it's 2/2, just DMC. And I should say, because I forgot to mention, Sugar Glider does have mostly DMC, but it does have one cottage or Weeks Dye Works thread that I've used so far in it. And that is called Grapevine. And that's the darker brown colour on his back. So Band of Braves is going to get 100 stitches for temperature stitching in this coming week. Next up is Art Deco Cafe, which is assigned to the number 1. So this is going to get 200 stitches. This is a piece by Box and Fox on Etsy. I really like this one. It only has minimal colours, like maybe 5 or 6, so it stitches up pretty quickly. And this is the starting point for that. Usually, again, I stitch this in the typewriter method, but I do also chase colours if I need to chase colours on this piece. And that's quite possible because I think the Down Under Divas penalty colour for this fortnight is black, so I could potentially get black stitches in on this one. So this will get 200 stitches in the upcoming week. And this is 25 count Zweigart. I don't know the colourway. It was just a scrap at my local LNS, or LNS because that's local twice. Next up is Nature's King. This will get 100 stitches. This is charted by Haid. It was part of the 2025 sale last year. Artwork is by Carol Cavalaris. I really, really like the way this piece is coming out. It's only going to get 100 stitches this week, but I really, really, really like how this is turning out. And that's on a piece of 28 count even weave. And then for temperature 27, so the 7 temperature is Northern Lights. This is a piece by Carol Manning Designs. I've always liked these pieces and I've wanted to start one for ages, so gave in for my birthday month this year. It doesn't have a lot of progress on it so far, but it will get another 100 stitches this week, which isn't a lot, but you know, every stitch counts. And that's our starting point. Again, this is on 28 count even weave. And then the last temperature piece is back to one we had this last week, which is Sampler Patchwork Squares by Nara X Stitch on Etsy. And this is going to get another 200 stitches. So just so you can remember, that is where we are at. And this one I'm stitching boxes diagonally down. So that's temperature stitching. Now, one thing I didn't mention about January, so it's a bit scattered today. For all of January, my total stitches done was 15,578 stitches in total, which is what I would have expected at around 500 stitches a day. So you can see I don't go too much over the 500 each day. So that is it for January, plus temperatures for next week. So let's look at what I'm going to be stitching for February. So first up, we're going to see crane panel number 2. Oh, the wrong one. Crane panel number 2. So this is coming out for 2,000 stitches, and because it is a design that starts with the letter C in Down Under Divas February monthly challenges. So you will see this again. I don't think I mentioned last time, this is actually stitched on 22 count Hardanger 1/1. So that's due to get 2,000 stitches. Then next up is Dinosaur. So this is a piece that I'm stitching for my son. Usually only comes out on his birthdays, but this month I needed a piece design that started with D. So this is Dinosaur. It's by Oh My Stitches on Etsy. She's a Ukraine designer, I believe. And this is where I'm up to. I'm hoping that I've got 2,000 stitches in here. It's going to be close. But essentially I've got up here and then I've got a bit of fill-in over here. So it should be okay. This is due to get 2,000 stitches, and I wouldn't be surprised if that finishes it or almost finishes it. And then we'll have to start another one because there's 9 to do or 10 to do, and I've only done, this is my 3rd one. So there's 7 more to go. Then moving on, I've got Modern Folk Embroidery sale from 2021. So last month you saw the 2023 sale. Well, this is the 2021 sale. And I'm stitching this in very mixed bright colourway. So it's DMC 3340 is the orange, and then the Cottage Garden thread is actually called Dragonfly, and it's a really beautiful pink and orange colour, variegated colour. And that's why this is coming out. So this is a colour that starts with C or D. It's the prompt. So this is coming out for Dragonfly. This is being stitched on 40 count just as Zweigart flax, 1/1. And this is my starting point. So, actually it goes quite a lot. There's some more down the bottom. So this is where we're at, and I imagine this is where I've been working. So I'm going to be stitching in Dragonfly. There's a lot of Dragonfly fill-in to do in that little motif, so that's probably where we'll work. So that'll get 1,000 stitches in the dragonfly colour. I really love Jacob's designs, but there's so much more stitching to them than you ever think. And so they always take me way longer than I think they're going to be. I think I kept up with his sale from 2021, and that's been the only one I've been able to keep up with. Next up is Don't Feed the Plants. And this is a piece by Ingleside Imaginarium, and it's for designer that starts with C or D. Just let me check my notes. Yeah. So the designer behind Ingleside Imaginarium, her name is Brittany Church. So C for Church. And I'm stitching this on a piece of 32 count even weave in a colourway called Squished Elf or Squashed Elf that I dyed myself. This is the starting point on it. I don't have a lot of margin on this one because I just wanted to fit it on this piece of fabric. And I do apologise about the lighting today. It's a really overcast, horrible day today here. So that's my starting point. Let me move the needle minder out of the way. And we'll just be, I'll work up in this middle flower up the top. So that's due to get 1,000 stitches this month. And then we've got 13th Colony Bay again. So this is coming out for, find the picture again. So this is coming out again for another 1,000 stitches because the designer behind By the Bay Needle Arts is actually Donna Bayliss. So just a reminder of where we're at. And most likely for those 1,000, I'll just be filling in land, water, and houses. So that'll get 1,000. Then we've got North Pole. Now this was 500 stitches for a design to do with Christmas. So C for Christmas. This is by Kathy Barrick. This is being stitched on a piece of 40 count donkey dyed by me. And it's not my normal style. It's not super bright and colourful, but I do still quite like it. I don't stitch a lot of Christmas, but I do like to try and have one Christmas piece going at any time. And Kerrilyn, the other half of Tassie Stitches, who you haven't seen for a while, she does own our LNS, and she recommended that as something that I might like to try. So that's North Pole by Kathy Barrick, and that'll get 500 stitches in February. Next up is Amphitrite, Goddess of the Sea. So this is for C is for crown, so 500 stitches. This is being stitched on a piece of 28 count even weave that I dyed myself in the colourway Sea Goddess. She is huge, and it's Bella Filipina pattern. And at the moment, I tend to be wanting to work down in the dolphin down here. So that will get 500 stitches. I know there's a lot of controversy about Bella Filipina at the moment, but I'm not going to talk about that other than mention that I know it's happening. This is a piece I already had. So we're just going to keep stitching on it. Then the next piece up is Little Cake Shop. So this is coming back for 500 stitches this month. For C is for cup. See if I can find it again on the list. Here it is. So again, charted by Haid, artwork by Amy Stewart. And this is where we're at. So 500, we'll finish off that column and start up the top on the next one in the ceiling again. It doesn't move super fast, that one. Then we move into the D's. So D is for dog, or another animal that starts with a D, not a capital D, just a D, is Rubber Ducky Dragon. This is artwork by Stanley Morrison and charted by Pain Free Crafts. I have this one on scroll rods. I'm not going to unscroll it, but I feel like that will happen not long after I start it. So I'm stitching this one on the diagonal, one stitch at a time. It drives me bonkers. But it's something I'm trialing for this. I'm actually stitching this piece for Kerrilyn, and I started this a few years ago now just because it had a waterfall in it and I needed something with a waterfall. So finishing off this diagonal and then starting the next diagonal. But I've got his little face in and he's so cute. I do like him. And this is 1/1 on a 25 count even weave. So he will get 500 stitches. Sorry, just a bit awkward being on the scroll rods. Next up, second last one, is Beautiful Day. Another Haid. Seem to have a lot of Haids going on at the moment. So this is for D is for Dream. So this was a new release late last year, and when I saw it, I just had to buy it immediately. I don't buy patterns usually just because. I usually buy them for a reason. But this one I just had to buy, and ended up being my Christmas Day start. So this is D for Dream, because this actually, although I've got another little white puppy somewhere around that we've brought into our home because she needed a home, this one reminds me of our last little dog who was also a rescued stray, Rosie. As soon as I saw this, she was a Maltese. The little expression on the face is just her, and it just drew at my heartstrings. So this is Beautiful Day. This is for a dream because I often dream about her. And it doesn't have a big start. It's got 100 stitches in it as a start, so it's not huge. Like I said, I only started it on Christmas Day, and that was just to get it started. So this is where we're at. The needle minder was also a Christmas present. Like I said, it's not a huge start. It's only 100 stitches, but it's a start. So that will get 500 stitches. It's going to take me a while before I get to the exciting bits, got to get through all the background. But I might try and stitch that on somewhat of a diagonal just so I can get to the dog a bit sooner than just going down the sides. And then last but not least, for February main plans is C for crown. No, D for dress, sorry. Amphitrite was C for crown. So this is D for dress. This is, I'm going to be using Pandemic. It's not super obvious why, but over here is a little lady and she is wearing a dress. I don't have a lot of whips with a lot of people in them. I'm not really a people stitcher. Bella Filipina is the what only fancy lady I would say I currently have on the go. I've never done a Mirabilia. I've done a few Nora Corbett's, but mostly Pixies. So this is where I'm at with Pandemic. As mentioned last month, because this came up as a deck of whip, I'm stitching with random skeins of Silks for You floss that I have. I'm starting off with the ones that I collected from the Sassy pouch. And I'm just stitching until the skein is gone. And then, obviously, because I don't have any more of that colour, moving on to another skein. So at the moment, I'm stitching this motif in the middle there, and that's where I will continue on. I'm not sure whether 500 stitches will finish that motif off or not, but we'll just have to see. And that's on 32 count Belfast in the colourway Platinum, I think. Yeah, it's too light for flax. So that is my main plans for February. So as most of you know, I also do Whip Go. So my Whip Go calls for February were 13th Colony Bay, which is why that was worked into my February plans, and Band of Braves. So Band of Braves I couldn't work in to my February plan, so that's why it's coming out as the first temperature piece replacement for the number 6 for this month. And the only other thing I've got is Enterprise. So this is one that I'm stitching for my husband, and I stitch it on his birth date every year if possible, and that's Enterprise. This is being stitched on a piece of 32 count Belfast linen by Zweigart. It's not my favourite. I don't like it. It's by Cross Stitch Collection, which is the Lord Libidan, the designer on Lord Libidan. So you can get it on the Lord Libidan site. It's free, or it was when I got it. And this is where it's at. And that is the right way? Yes, the right way up. So that is where it's at. At the moment, I'm back stitching this little, do this so you can see better. I'm back stitching this little spaceship over here. Most of the cross stitch on this is done, so now I'm just up for reams and reams and reams of backstitch, which isn't my favourite thing, but you know, maybe it will be different because I'm drawing pictures with backstitch rather than just outlining things with backstitch. We'll see if that makes a difference, but anyway, 100 stitches at a time is pretty much all I can manage on that. The black stitching on the back stitching on the black linen is much harder than cross stitching on the black linen. So if you're ever considering doing what do they call it, black work on black linen, give it a try first before you commit to a big piece, because I can't say I'm really struggling with the backstitch, just doing backstitch on it. I don't struggle so much with the normal cross stitch, but I am struggling with the backstitch. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so that's everything except for deck of whips. So I'm sorry if I rambled a bit today. I feel like I was very disjointed, but let's shuffle our cards. I've taken out all the drawn cards as usual, and we will draw for deck of whips. I should say with deck of whips this month, usually I have a spare week where I fill in those 300 spare stitches with Spring Garden Band Sampler. February is a really tight month for me stitch-wise, trying to fit everything in, so that 300 stitches I don't have to allocate to Spring Garden Band Sampler this month. But our card for this coming week, starting tomorrow, February 2nd, is the 5 of Spades. Gee, we've drawn a few spades. So for me, the 5 of Spades is Dinosaur Circle. that is this piece. My aim when deck of whips can be double dipped with with the monthlies, the Down Under Diva monthlies, but not the Down Under Diva weeklies. My decision at the start of the year was if a piece is called for deck of whips that I won't double dip, I'll try to do individual stitches. So I'll do my deck of whip stitches on this first before I start the 2,000 stitches for its monthly plans. Let's hope I've got 2,300 stitches in this. Otherwise, Spring Garden Band Sampler is my penalty piece for Down Under Diva's monthlies. So if I do my 300 deck of whips and then don't have 2,000 left on this, any remaining stitches will be done on Spring Garden Band Sampler. So it might still get, plus it's still, they're out for temperature stitching for the number 5. So I did do up a board. We'll see how this goes. I don't know if I'm going to continue with it, but I've done it up anyway. So this is my board for February. So I've put down all of my monthly whips. The green is the monthly goal and the blue over here is its yearly goal. And some of them you can see, like up here, I've got 1,000 out of 5,000. So last month I put in, I think it was 10,010 stitches, to be honest. But I just work, when I'm meeting my yearly goals, I just work in rounded numbers. I'm not going to get to the end of the year and go, oh, I only need 927 stitches. I just do 1,000. It's just easier for me that way. So we had a few whips come out this month that I had out last month. Not many, but some. So you can see Pandemic should have 300 stitches next to that, or 400 next to that, because it got pulled out for deck of whips and I didn't write that one down. Oh. And then this is temperature whips down the bottom. So again, this is its yearly goal. And red is how many stitches I have done on it so far. So with my temperature stitching, as per Jen, the Craftinator Crafter, who took the idea from Siska Stitches, I have taken the last digit of each of the temperatures and assigned a whip to those. My idea is to do 1,000 stitches and then reevaluate, and then swap it out or keep it on if I feel it's not going to be popular this year, because I've planned pretty much what I can and can't do for monthlies already. I am a bit of a pre-planner. So, but then things like Whip Go and stuff throw spanners in the works, like Band of Braves probably wouldn't have been a piece that I picked for temperature stitching, but because I couldn't fit it into my monthly stitching this month and it was called, it has gone in for temperature stitching. But bear in mind, my Whip Go pieces have annual goals, not monthly goals. So my monthly goal on Whip Go is just to touch it in that month if possible. But otherwise it just has a yearly goal. So once again, all of my full coverage that have been pre-started before the start of the year have a goal of 5,000 for the year. My other Whip Go pieces that aren't one of my needle points or sampler patchwork squares or one of my birthday pieces all have a goal of 4,000 stitches. And then again, excluding those ones I've just mentioned because they have day goals rather than stitch goals, all of my others have a goal of around 3,000 stitches. So all of my pieces have goals. I don't always meet them, but I do always try and meet my Whip Go goals if possible. They're my main goals. They're all my 24 oldest pieces always get put on Whip Go. just because I want to meet all of my goals on those. If I don't meet goals on others, it's fine. They're a bit more rubbery, but I always try and meet my WIPCO goals. So that is me. Sorry I rambled a bit today. If you liked what you see, maybe think about subscribing or liking or leaving me a comment. I did get a few comments on the last video, and that was quite exciting. Again, thanks for coming back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.